Hey friends, it is Stephanie. Okay, this late night crafting actually turned out later than what I wanted it to be because unfortunately, when Facebook, lovely Facebook, updated my business page to the new professional page experience, it disconnected my overhead camera. So guess what? We just pivot and we go live right here. So I am on my phone, but I can manage. I'm gonna put my phone on my mount. So you're gonna take a little walk with me because I'm gonna make this project tonight and I thought maybe you guys would like to hang out. So let me get you mounted. Who knew you were gonna be mounted on a Thursday night? Close your eyes if you get, no, there we go. So I need mesh. So I'm like, oh, this mesh would be so pretty, right? But it's kind of dark. So I need to lighten it up a little bit. So I brought out this mesh, right? So this mesh and this mesh. Then I got to here and I'm like, wait a minute. I've got mesh. How many of you have those partial rolls hanging around? Me. So guess what? I pulled out all of my partial rolls of white mesh and I'm going to be using those rather than open up a brand new roll. And look, I've already emptied 2 rolls because, so, inspiration. Let me bring you down here. Oh, then I went to ribbon. So then I went to the ribbon shelf and I said, okay, what ribbon do I have on my shelf that I can work with? Look what I came up with so far. Actually, I have more than these down here on the table. But let me get my camera positioned so that you can watch what I'm doing. You don't necessarily need to see moi, right? Okay, so this fabric mesh in yellow and white, or yellow, white, and black, I've already pre-cut. I've only got one more piece, but I cut 18 strips at 20 inches. The white mesh, I have several pieces of white mesh. This is 15 inches, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with that. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with that. Actually, let me go ahead and cut this last piece, and we'll get rid of that roll. So my white mesh, I ended up pulling partial rolls off of my storage shelf. But the black and white mesh is going to be my main attraction. All right, so 15-inch work frame, because that's my fave. And look at some of the things that we're going to be adding. So this sign with, I can't wait to use these yellow daisies. Love it, love it. So I brought out some greenery. So my basic wreath base is just going to be the ruffle wreath method. And using this fabric mesh, the fabric mesh doesn't fray near as bad as like a plain deco mesh. So I feel very confident using the ruffle method. So I'm just taking and adding a curl into the twist tie. One little curl. Now, all of my white mesh isn't identical, but it's all white. So this one has like a cotton ball, it's called a cotton drift. This one has nothing. So I'm just going to strategically kind of place the different mesh, but it's all going to be white. And by the time we get done, there is nobody that's going to go, oh, she used this white mesh there and that white mesh there. Nuh-uh. We were talking on Etsy Made Easy today about, you know, when we list our items on Etsy, that we want to list them so that the normal person knows what they mean. Because unless you're a wreath maker, you don't know the difference between poly burlap and fabric mesh or deco mesh, or, you know, you don't even maybe know that that's a mesh wreath. You just know it's a wreath to hang on your door, right? So it's the same way with this. They don't necessarily don't know that I didn't do that intentionally. Mix up my meshes intentionally just to add that texture to it, which it does. So I'm just kind of randomly, because I have several of these, kind of randomly putting them in there. Use up that mesh. The twins are doing good, Christine. So remember, this is our sign. I was thinking about using this ribbon in my bow, but I also brought out that one. I definitely loved this one. I feel like I want to put some green in there, and I also wanted to bring some white. So I think what I'm going to do is use that 2.5. But you know what? I also brought out this jute netting. Look how that kind of brings some natural elements to all of that. What do you guys think? I think this right here is a great combination. Hey, Tanya, what's up, girl? We only need like for accent. So you can make loops and bows out of it, but this is one of those more expensive wired ribbons. It's actually not a ribbon. It's kind of like a window pane, right? So you don't need a whole lot. You can just put a strip in there like this, or you can just make a single bow or single loop. But it's more of a texture and an accent, or at least that's what I'm going to use it for. So let me start with this 2.5-inch daisy. The daisy, and I don't need ribbon tails. I'm going to make just a, my tails as the same size as my loops, and I'm going to do some 6-inch loops. And for this one, I'm going to do 2 black. And cut that off. What I love too is all of this ribbon was on my shelf, so I didn't have to get any new ribbon. I went to the shelf and said, what do I have to work with? Now I'm going to go ahead and add some of this green, because I want to add green into my bow, but I don't want it to be in the forefront. I want it to be kind of like an accent color, kind of like the leaves in the background on the sign, right? I'm going to do 2 loops of those. Now I want to use some of that yellow dot, yellow and white dot ribbon. And I'm only going to do 1 loop with that. Ooh, hang on. Do I want the white to be on top? Yeah, I do. I had to think that through for a moment. But you know, again, going to my shelf, looking at some of the options, like I have this yellow and black with the polka dots, this yellow, golden yellow stripe. All of those would have been great options. This is what I want. So I'm just going to take a piece of this and pinch that in the middle and put that right in there. Do 1 more and crisscross it the other way. Trim that one down a little. And now I'm going to add my white. I like it. It's starting to look a little nice. All right, so let me take some floral wire here. Do you guys use floral wire or do you use zip ties, pipe cleaners? I actually posted that a week or so ago. And it was kind of like a toss-up. Everybody kind of has their own preferences. And then just like me, a lot of you said it depends. Depends on the bow. So if my bow is super thick, I may use a zip tie first and then run a piece of wire underneath the zip tie before I tighten it. Most of the time, I use the 22 gauge floral wire though. All right, let me dovetail some ribbon tail. I'm okay with that because we're going to be adding some greenery. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this. And of course, I'm not going to put it right on a twist tie. I'm going to go in between a couple of twist ties. Go. All right. Now that I have that, and I normally put the sign on first, but today I wanted to just live on the edge and do the bow first. You know why? Because there's no rules. There are no rules. And one of the reasons that I brought that white out is for this very reason, because I didn't want the black to be lost in the mesh. The mesh is gorgeous, but we only want to use the mesh as part of the accent, not the focal point. But even an all-white base would also go super well with this sign for some nice contrast. Adding some of this mini boxwood in here right now just to give it some greenery. And, oh yeah, give it some of that softer look. All right, well, I'm gonna hang this guy on the wall, take a few photos, and it's way past my bedtime. There we go. There's a more upright view of it. After I get it hung on the wall, take that step back a little. There we go. Now it's turned to right side. Yes. Yeah, I normally don't go live from my phone when I'm in the craft room, but it is what it is. All right, guys. You have a great night, and I will see you probably tomorrow. Who knows?